Hey, it's me, Uncle Ricky, Uncle Ricky's house. Hey, look, um, I've been seeing some things that recently kind of shocked me, but really, if you look at it, it's not that shocking. And one of those things is, Senator John Kennedy, the Southern guy that has the Kennedy name, but he's not related to them Kennedys. And if you ever saw him or watch what he does or follow his history in the Senate, you know he wasn't an actual President John Kennedy relative. But although, Kennedy's nephew, John Kennedy, the president's nephew, Robert F. Kennedy, he kind of breaks the Kennedy family mold too. But back to Senator John Kennedy. Recently, the Supreme Court has been under fire because basically they just been all kinds of screwed up. They have just issued, mandates, well, not mandates, they've issued rulings that go against the majority viewpoint of American citizens. Um, Roe versus Wade being overturned, and recently affirmative action being overturned. And I mean, it's not, well, it's in the purview of the Supreme Court to, let's say, decide legal questions that perhaps are not covered by the Constitution, or to go over laws that perhaps are not, that are made that are not quite in line with the Constitution, or the actions of states that perhaps maybe are actually overtly designed or covertly designed to suppress and oppress individual elements of American society for whatever reason, like in voting rights and redistricting maps. And it's funny because, of course, Kennedy is, right wing. I don't know if he claims MAGA, but he acts like it, or he does things that are very MAGA-like. And, as a true Republican, he would rather stunt and, make a show of things instead of actually building legislation or contributing to passing legislation that would actually benefit the majority of the people the majority of the time. It's more about, I'm here, so just listen to what I got to say, even if I got nothing to say, and pay me. Not only my salary, but whatever I can rake in under the table, allegedly. And I have to say allegedly to protect my ass. But Kennedy, along with the help of Senator Ted Cruz, the guy that left Texas in the middle of a unusual blizzard that killed dozens of people in the state, left lights out, power off, gas off, and people actually froze to death in Texas. And Kennedy decides to go to, I'm Kennedy, I'm sorry, but they're so much alike except in age. Cruz decides to take his family on a vacation to none other than Cancun. And when he gets caught in the airport, he blames it on his daughters. Such a man. He's also the same man that Donald Trump punked out when he was running for president the first time, and basically called Kennedy's wife, I'm sorry, but there's so much like Cruz's wife, I think her name is Hildy or Hilda or something like that, just called her ugly, and Cruz basically did nothing about it. But he's supposed to be such a great Texan, backbone and all the myth about the alpha male, the Texas alpha male. But let's get back on subject because time is valuable. These two have been making an effort to protect the conservative portion, the supermajority conservative portion of the Supreme Court, namely the two old guys, Clarence Thomas, the black guy, and Justice Alito, the white guy. Now, recently, Clarence Thomas, among the culture, the people that look like me, the majority of Americans, or the majority of the Americans that make up 13% of one of the largest, up until now, minorities in the United States. We look at Clarence, we have a pet name for Clarence, and it belongs to four-legged, ring-tailed, circle around the eyes animal that in the South is the great sport hunting that motherfucker at night. But we also call him other things that depict the type and role of house slaves during the antebellum or pre-emancipation era of the United States, the history of the United States, which a lot of Republicans would like to change into a kinder, gentler moment and make themselves look like heroes. But the reason they choose to protect them is not because they have all of a sudden discovered a love for civil rights or the want to disparage the use of racial epithets and stereotypes. It's because they need to show that Clarence Thomas that he is still and always will be their boy. And I put emphasis on the word boy. See, the Attorney General of, I believe it's Minnesota, is a black man, and he's a Democrat. The Democratic Party in Minnesota is kind of whacked out. It's not like regular Democrats, but they fly under the Democratic banner. And he called Clarence Thomas, because of the way Clarence Thomas has acted towards black people and all things human during his entire 30-year career on the Supreme Court. He called him a house Negro, and a house Negro is the stereotypical description of the master's pet head male that always, no matter what the master did, it was always, "Yes, master, you so right, master, and what we gonna do, master, about, anything. What we gonna do about the house, what we gonna do about these unruly Negroes that don't act anything like me, that, actually act like they give a damn about being oppressed and being slaves and getting whipped and shit like that, when it doesn't matter to me because I kiss master's ass every day. I am your favorite Negro." This is the description that the culture has put on Clarence Thomas. This is the description that many white people put on Clarence Thomas. They just won't say it in public, but they know the story, they know the deal, and they understand the psyche of someone like Clarence Thomas. But because Clarence Thomas says what the conservative, ultra-right wing, the democracy-hating, theocracy, authoritarian-loving, neo-fascist desire, they dream about, and they need that shit to brave, they gonna protect Clarence Thomas. They gonna put money in Clarence Thomas' pocket, and they gonna dare the rest of the United States to say anything negative about Clarence Thomas, even if they are only saying the same things that they say about Clarence Thomas behind his back. And believe me, Clarence Thomas probably knows what they say about behind his back. He is not a stupid man. He has played the system, he has played both sides of the system, and he has made a decision on how to enrich himself at the expense of the people of the United States of America, especially at the expense of people that look like him. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people. But Kennedy pulled the stunt where he had an amendment put into a bill that already exists in the Constitution about intimidating justices of the Supreme Court. And in order to, I don't know, maybe pat Thomas on the head, his amendment specifically was designed for Clarence Thomas. There are other minority justices on the Supreme Court, but it didn't say anything about them. He was even asked during the hearing, "Don't you want your amendment to include all the other minority justices on the Supreme Court?" And his response was, "It's about Clarence Thomas. If you want to vote for it, and he had the Democratic members of the Judiciary Committee over a barrel, because it was Even though Ellis is a black man, it was a racial epithet. It came from a seated, elected Democrat, technically, and he had the Democratic members of the Judiciary Committee over a barrel because he said, "Are you going to allow them to say such things about a black man?" No, it doesn't make it any better if it came from another black man. But his whole point was a play. Kennedy's whole point was a play on words. He used the situation to show the world, to show the country, to show Clarence Thomas that he was a special kind of Negro, that he was protected by his white providers. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. We gonna back you up as long as you don't take our hand from being planted firmly between your butt cheeks, moving your lips to say exactly what you want to say. Senator John Kennedy, Louisiana. Southern history, Southern pride, and he makes no bones about it, and he is conservative all the way, and now he just made the entire country make an amendment to a constitutional bill to honor his pet Negro, Justice Clarence Thomas. And further, the corruption, the rampant, overzealous conservatism that is infecting our United States Supreme Court, which eventually, as we all see, boils down into law when the right court. And he made a point of it. He said, if you're mad at Clarence Thomas, if you're mad at the Supreme Court for overturning Roe versus Wade, for overturning affirmative action, just find the right case and get it all the way up to the Supreme Court and convince them that they're wrong. And this is what the Republican Party, the Federalist Society, and the far-right Christian majority, the silent minority, or whatever you want to call it, have been doing for the last 30 or 40 years. And unfortunately, now in 23, when you have presidents like Trump and organizations like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, where their only purpose is to divide the country, preaching white superiority and xenophobia and homophobia and misogyny, building up, trying to say we need a theocracy, held up by, a white nationalist, white Christian, neo-Christian, neo-nationalist type nation in order to retain the true purpose of America. That's what you get. Kennedy's a smartass. Unfortunately, America is so freaking susceptible to the okie doke right now. Supreme Court is out of hand, and Congress, the Senate, they are definitely tweaking anybody with half a brain that isn't sold on, white power or black power, that just wants to survive, that just wants to see this country go on so they can have a chance at achieving something, that their children can have a chance of achieving something, that, we might all be able to live in peace and enjoy ethnic pride without having to make our pride be the center of the nation's attention. I don't know. Kennedy's a moron. Cruz has already proved that he's a moron, but they all push an agenda that is going to rip the heart out of democracy. Well, that's it. I'm done for now. See you when I see you. Peace out. Until next time, God bless. From Uncle Ricky and Uncle Ricky.